Building a house? Fast? Getting a permit? Good luck. You submit everything, then wait. And wait. While your project sits buried in red tape, somewhere in the belly of City Hall. If you think your permit vanished into a black hole, you're not wrong. Let's talk about why. Welcome to the Custom Built and Screwed Podcast, Episode 1. I'm your host, Erik Jensen, the fearless leader here at Sprucehill Homes in North Vancouver, BC. I've spent the last 20 years building custom homes, managing renovations, wrangling city inspectors, and doing my best to keep things moving when everything around me wants to slow down. And now, I'm kicking off this podcast to share what I've learned, the good, the bad, and especially the "are you kidding me?" moments that come from within this industry. I'm genuinely excited to start this conversation with homeowners, builders, realtors, designers, and anyone who's got a stake in what gets built and how it's done. This show is going to be about pulling back the drywall and exposing what's really going on behind the scenes. Every week, we'll dive into real stories, real challenges, and some solid advice to help you build smarter and avoid getting screwed. Today, we're starting where every build begins, permits. Let's just say up front, if you're planning to build or renovate anything today, it's likely that you're going to be delayed by permits. I'm going to even go ahead and say it's not a maybe. It's probably not even a hopefully not this time. It feels like it's baked into the process now. We are working on a building permit for a project where we're doing a basement suite renovation. We submitted permits with a job description saying all of the different things that we're going to do, but I guess we didn't include one small detail of what we were supposed to do. And rather than get a phone call or anything like that from the municipality saying, hey, if you just change this to this, we can just sail your permit through and everything will be just A-okay. No, we get vague, nondescript emails that say, well, change this, but then we change it and then it gets rejected and then we change it and then it gets, and it's like, just tell us what you want to see on the permit application and we will gladly give it to you. When a builder tells you, oh no, don't worry, we've got a guy at the city, run. That sales pitch is the version of my cousin's friend is a mechanic. Because here's the truth. Most of us are really and truly genuinely trying to do our best. And we're definitely seeing that a lot of clients are frustrated. And having spoken in private to some city staff, it seems to me like a lot of them are burned out and they're just over it. And nobody seems to have an appetite to want to fix it. We had a job and it was pretty simple. It was an interior only renovation. No major structural changes, nothing related to setbacks, no DPAs, no trees, no creekside, no nothing. Does it just slide through and get issued? No. 4 months of permit delays for what? We need to be doing better. These permits need to come out faster. How can municipalities think that people are going to want to continue to work with them and get permits when there's just hoop after hoop to jump through? There really is an opportunity to get things back on track. And I can tell you, probably closer to like 2018, it was a much better permitting experience. We're finding that it takes as long to get a building permit as it does for us to actually build the house. And it's not like we're not following up. We're following up every 2 weeks, like clockwork. Sometimes we get a response, but most of the time it's just crickets. No questions, no rejections, just nothing. I would suspect part of the reason why these things are happening is the departments aren't talking to each other. The review process isn't one big meeting, it's a game of telephone, except no one's passing the message around. Each department is waiting for their turn to flag something, one by one. And every year, there's a new green initiative or zoning adjustment or fire code change or code change that's supposed to make homes better. But it just makes the process slower. And if you're asking for any updates, you get the greatest hit of all time. We're short-staffed. Since when? 2010? If this was a business, I think we all know they'd be out of business. So let's walk through what actually happens when you submit for a permit. Because most people think this is just a checklist. You fill out the form, attach some drawings, pay the fee, boom, go time. Yeah, no. What actually happens, you upload it into the portal. It sits in intake for 2, maybe 3 weeks, sometimes more. You follow up. Oh yeah, we see it in the system. Cool, but who's looking at it? Is it being reviewed? Not yet. Eventually someone in planning opens it up and they might give you comments or they might say nothing. Let's say they do respond. You revise, you resubmit. Now it goes to engineering. And guess what? They have their own checklist, different from planning, and definitely not synced up. So now they flag something else. It could be how many different ICs we have to change or fix. It can be so many different things. But the bottom line is it's never the same and it's never consistent. It feels like every time we fix one thing, someone else finds a new one. It's literally like playing whack-a-mole with bylaws. And it's not like they send you the full list up front. You get a request, then another, then another. I mean, I guess you could call it sequential sabotage. It's not that the rules are too complex, and it's not that no one's coordinating the process. It's just every change means a new upload, a new wait, a new response delay. You want to see how wild it gets? We submitted 2 permits, same design, same block, 2 adjacent lots. One took 4 months, the other nearly 7. Same team, same planner, different week, no explanation. Just different staffing levels, whatever that means. I just don't understand why we have this combative, non-collaborative process. Let's figure it out and let's get together and simplify the process. 7-10 years ago, a basic single family reno might involve a designer and maybe a structural engineer. Now, depending on the scope of work, you could require geotechnical engineers, civil engineers for stormwater design, energy consultants, envelope consultants. Like the number of consultants that we're being asked to incorporate and work with on simple like what used to be simple projects, like the list just keeps growing. You know, like sometimes depending on where the project is, like you even have to like have an arborist report just to do a renovation. Like it's not like you're like cutting down a tree or doing anything like that. It's just if you happen to live in a certain area or whatever, they say, well, now you need an arborist report. You know, one of the latest things that we've come up against is having to have a pest control person come and provide a report to say that there aren't pests living on the property. Another latest and greatest something is, you know, gone are the days of for sure being able to just knock down a house and move on with life. You know, some of these jurisdictions are saying, oh no, you know, if a home is built before, say, 1955, you have to take that sucker apart by hand. And they say, well, you know, we're trying to upcycle or recycle the materials and, you know, people will reuse them. And then, you know, you hear somebody say, oh, but you're going to get a tax credit for like whatever you pay for doing the deconstruction. All right, dude, if I'm paying $30,000 or $40,000 to a company to take a home apart by hand, my client gets a $30,000 or $40,000 tax credit. Well, at best and at most, that might mean, if they're really lucky, a $20,000 receipt back to them. So they're still out of pocket an extra 20 grand. It feels like we've just gotten so carried away with all of this. Now, layered on top of all of this is you've got these departments that aren't communicating with each other and a system that just wasn't built to handle this kind of volume and this kind of complexity. It's like trying to run a restaurant kitchen with 12 chefs. It's kind of like putting a salad to the past and saying, hey, this is a salad. And then, the next chef saying, oh, no. Like, we weren't supposed to use lettuce. We're supposed to use kale. So now we have to completely remake the salad so that it uses kale. Seems to me like if we want to fix permits, we need to have exhaustive checklists that are clear, complete, consistent, and concise. And we need departments reviewing things in parallel, not in sequence. They frequently say they're working on it. They say they're digitizing. They say they're streamlining. And maybe some of them are. But right now the machine is jammed. And if you don't know how to play the game, you're gonna get rolled. So let's get into the greatest hits playlist of City Hall excuses. You've probably heard all of these before. Hell, you could even almost play permit delay bingo with how predictable they become. Square one, we're short-staffed. Classic. And hey, I get it. And I believe it, I really do. But let's unpack that. It seems like they've been short-staffed for over a decade. It's literally the official response to every delay. But here's what nobody is saying out loud. They're short-staffed because we keep giving them more to do without giving them more people. How can you possibly think that you're going to change a bylaw, like a stormwater bylaw, something that I hold near and dear to my heart, and expect to have such a significant change not require more people power to help deal with that? Imagine if your boss said, hey, we're gonna double the number of inspections you're responsible for, but you get no new crew, no pay raise, no timeline change. Just figure it out. And that's what it seems like we have done to city planning staff. So let's look at what's changed over the last 10 years. Step code has recently come in. With that, we now need energy modeling, we need blower door tests, we need compliance reports, a lot of the time we need envelope consultants. Now you add on top of that, as I've already said, stormwater requirements. That requires pulling in civil engineers just to get, even like a laneway house approved. Tree bylaws have been tightened. Sometimes now you need an arborist report before you can even breathe near a root ball. And like I already said, on the demolition side of things, so it's not demo anymore, it's deconstruction. And it has its own permitting workflow. If you've never tried to put a nail into a 50 or 60-year-old piece of fir, I suggest you ask somebody like me for an old stick of fir and give it a go. Let me tell you, 50, 60-year-old fir does not want to get a nail put in it at all. It is like almost concrete. It is unbelievable. So what about heritage delays? If your home is a heritage lot or a designated heritage area or something like that, now you've got all of these additional people and departments that now need to get involved in your permit application. So yeah, they're short-staffed, but they're also overtasked and under-resourced for the monster that we've built. It's not a workforce problem, it's a leadership problem. Believe that. If you want better permit times, you don't just need more people, you need to stop burying the existing ones in red tape. Square two, we're having software issues. Cool, let's talk about that 10 million system upgrade. It was supposed to streamline everything, make permits fully digital, cut turnaround time in half. What did we get? A portal that sometimes crashes mid-upload, a system that can't handle a combined PDF over maybe, say, 100 megabytes of size, and an interface that looks like it was coded in Y2K. Software hiccups happen, but when the tech becomes another excuse on top of staffing issues, it starts to sound a lot like deflection and not accountability. You can't tell the public you've modernized the system and then send us error messages that look like the same ones from Windows 95. Square three, we're seeing a high volume of applications. No, you don't say. There's a housing crisis. People want to build, or they want to improve the homes that they have. We need more homes. Developers are rushing to beat policy changes. Homeowners are trying to add suites to keep up with affordability issues. High volume shouldn't be a surprise. It should be expected. So when you say that it's a shock, it kind of tells us that you're not prepared to do the job we're all relying on you to do. This isn't a blip. It seems like it's the new normal. And if you're a municipality still treating high volume like a curveball, it might be time to reread the room. This isn't 2011. You wouldn't tell a fire department, we didn't expect so many fires this summer. You'd staff up, you'd gear up, you'd fix the damn system. And here's the thing, these excuses, they're not even lies. They're true. They're just not good enough anymore. They're symptoms of a broken system that nobody's really fixing. The question isn't, why are things so slow? It's what's being done to fix it. And how are we tracking whether it's working? Spoiler, there are very few answers. Deep breath, we've ranted, we've dragged the system, but let's talk about what we can do. Because sitting back and blaming the city doesn't get the project moving either. Let's start with builders, my people. Step 1, build margin into your timelines. Don't plan your schedule like the permit's going to drop in 6 weeks just because the website says it might. Plan like it's gonna take 3 months or 4. If it shows up sooner, amazing, you're the hero. But at least your client's not standing there asking why your crew's not on site getting things done. The client doesn't care whether or not the city is slow or not. They just care that you told them that they were gonna get their project started by July 1st, or the project was gonna be completed before Christmas. P.S. At Sprucehill, there's 2 promises we don't make. We never promise we'll be finished before Christmas, and we never promise we'll be done before a significant event like a wedding or a pregnancy, a child being born, is more what I mean. We don't make those promises because it is, if you are unable to fulfill that promise, you really look like a schmuck. So, do we work hard to make sure that happens? Of course we do. But do we promise that? Never. The second step that I would suggest is over-prepare. In a perfect world, your application should be ironclad. Triple check everything. Make sure the surveys are correct. Make sure the file names are correct. Make sure your dimensioning is perfect. Every checkbox on that form that the city gives you needs to be checked off. Make sure you're missing nothing. Every missing document or every missing check mark on their list could be a 4-week delay. Step 3 is pre-application meetings. Even if the city says they're optional, in our experience, they're not. They're gold. They save time, they flag weird site conditions early, and they get you in front of a human who might actually care about getting it right from the start. So many times I would go in for a permit application and I would be reviewing drawings with the plan checker, and a measurement would be wrong or a setback would be incorrect. And rather than having to go back and redraw everything, we would just update it on the drawings sitting right in front of them. Just in having in-person meetings saves weeks, if not months of time, because it is amazing how much we can get solved in an in-person conversation. Let me know in the comments below if you agree. Okay, so step 4, track everything. It doesn't need to be anything complicated, but make a basic spreadsheet. I like to know what date did we submit it? When was the first comments received back from the municipality? When did we resubmit the drawings? And ultimately, when did we get final approval? I'd also suggest keeping notes on who reviewed it and how many revision cycles it finally took to get to that finish line. This isn't just gonna help you manage future projects. It's going to help you push back when timelines start slipping for no apparent reason. Now, let's pivot to what I think is the bigger message and the one that really needs to be said loud and clear. We are not the enemy. Builders, designers, homeowners, we're not trying to cheat. We're not trying to cut corners. We're just trying to do our jobs, deliver good projects, and follow the rules. You know, like it really feels like some days we're being treated like we're trying to sneak one past a goalie, when in reality, we're just asking someone to blow the damn whistle and start the game. Wouldn't it be nice to get back to how things used to be, where we were working together? We had mutual goals, like building homes, doing it faster, doing it better, making it safer, making homes more efficient, making the process more efficient. Instead, it's become a war of attrition. You know, like let's see who gives up first, the permit applicant or the planner. We need to flip the mindset. Less suspicion, more solution. And here's the kicker. Carrots work better than sticks. Right now, cities are regulating everything, including like what you can do with your groundwater if you want to save it for watering your garden. Like energy, deconstruction, stormwater, FSR, tree protection, all of it. And they're doing all of it through penalties and mandates. But what if, instead of punishing builders and homeowners, we don't do something, we reward the ones who go above and beyond? You know, for example, imagine getting extra FSR for voluntarily going full step 5, or paying less tax if you deconstruct instead of demo. That's how I think we can better shift behavior. You know, if you want more energy efficient homes, offer a density bonus for heat pumps and solar installs. If you want to have deconstruction instead of demolition, give that partial tax exemption for waste diversion weights. Do you want fewer fights with builders? Give them a reason to play nice. Instead of handing out fines after they already feel like they're being punished. You want better buildings, faster approvals, and smarter cities? Then stop squeezing everyone from the top down. Start offering incentives that make people want to go higher. That's how you build alignment. That's how you build trust. And that's how we stop wasting years of everyone's time. And finally, build what this province actually needs. All right, so here's a screwed up story that somebody sent in to us. And like I said, this is not something that we did. We heard this from somebody else. But it's exactly the kind of situation that makes me want to do this podcast in the first place. We're going to call this one the case of the Vanishing Contractor. We've all watched Homes on Homes. We've all seen those episodes where the client's giving them money and the contractor vanishes, or something comes up and the contractor is gone and, you know, nothing is happening anymore. So, you know, in this case, a homeowner reached out to a contractor. Let's call him Dave. Of course, it's not Dave. He's got decent reviews, nice portfolio, good firm handshake, and says all the right things. The homeowner's pumped. They've saved up. They want that new kitchen. It's going to be a full gut job. New layout, new plumbing, like open concept, right? That's what everybody wants for their kitchen these days. And Dave says, we'll save time if we just get going. Don't worry about the permits. I've done this before. Now, we can pause for a second and just talk about like what projects need permits and what projects don't. Anytime you are moving or adding a wall, you need a building permit. Anytime you're making a structural change to your home, you need a building permit. That's it. I mean, if you're gonna eliminate a window or add a window, also building permit. This is really done for everybody's safety. We have renovated so many homes over the years that obviously was previously done by like a really, 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 really bad contractor or just an inexperienced homeowner. We've got this situation back to Dave now. He knows that we're moving walls and they're getting rid of things and they're opening stuff up, right? We can see where this is going. They didn't do any drawings, certainly no permit, certainly no inspections. Demo's all done, kitchen's all gone. Feels so good to see everything open and cleared out and see like, you know, what's gonna be. And then what happens? A neighbor calls and the city shows up. 2 minutes in the house, boom, stop work order on the door. Now everything freezes. The inspector's asking questions Dave can't answer. There's no paper trail, no plan submission, no compliance documents. And just like that, like Kaiser Sose, Dave disappears, ghosted, vanished, poof. Here's the fallout. The homeowner's left with half-torn walls, electrical exposed, plumbing, well, maybe it's fine, maybe it's not. The city, not amused. They start issuing fines. The client tries to bring in someone new, but now it's not a renovation, it's a recovery mission. New plans, new application, retroactive inspections, and sometimes they're gonna make you tear it all out and start over. And that's what happened in this case. In the end, you, the homeowner, pay twice. First to undo everything, and then again to do it properly. Timeline, forget about it. Blown up, destroyed. Budget, doubled, minimally. And the stress, through the roof. All because Dave thought he could beat the system. Like I said, when you skip permits, you're gonna get fined. You're gonna get red tagged. And some people don't know this, insurance can deny your claim if you've done renovations without permits. When you go to sell, you might find out that a future buyer doesn't want to purchase your unpermitted renovation. It's too risky. So, you could also end up legally responsible for any of the unsafe work. But most importantly, you lose time. Time you'll never get back because the permit you thought you were saving time on, you still need. Now you're just behind and broke. If you're working with a contractor and they say, let's just do it without permits, you should hear, let's hope nobody finds out and everything goes perfectly. That's not a strategy. That's wishful thinking dressed up as experience. All right, before we wrap, let's shift gears. You've heard the horror stories, you've heard the rants, let's talk tools. Not the kind you hold in your hand, but the ones you use to stay ahead of permit chaos. Because yes, system is a mess, but you've got options. And here are 5 toolbox tips to help you navigate it smarter. Tip number 1, over-prepare your application, and I mean obsessively. If you've got 90% of your documents right, the city will still flag the 10% that's off. And now you're back in the queue. Again, triple check everything. Title block, labeled correctly, zoning summary, double verified, site plan, dimension, scaled with a north arrow, energy step code form, filled and signed, file names, match the damn contents. Listen, we've seen permits stalled for all sorts of different reasons, but nothing is worse than having your permit stalled for an incorrect file name. Our job, your job, is to give them 0 reasons for any delays. Tip number 2, like I said before, ask for that pre-application meeting. Even if it's optional, even if it costs a couple $100, this is your chance to sit across, virtually or otherwise, I prefer in person, from someone inside the process and say, here's what we're planning to do. What do I need to know now before I waste 3 months revising drawings? And honestly, you'd be amazed at what pops up. You're gonna find there might be some lot-specific quirks, recent bylaw changes that haven't made it to the website, planners with preference. When you have those pre-submission meetings, it can save you weeks of grief. So if it's not available, try to make it available to yourself, but definitely do it. Tip number 3, track everything. Can't stress this enough. Make a permit log. Make it a spreadsheet or whiteboard, whatever your vibe is, just track it. And here's what you're gonna log, right? We talked about it already. Date submitted, date first reviewed, date of first comments, date of final approval, and the reviewer's name, notes on pain points. And why are we doing this? Because no matter how smart you think you are, your memory is going to fade, but data doesn't. And when your client asks, why is this taking so long? You can point to the numbers and not just trying to trust your gut and guess where things are gonna go. The other thing it'll also help you to do is start to identify which departments might stall your project and what you need to do to circumnavigate those issues in the future. Now, tip number 4, be respectful, but be persistent. City staff are not our enemy. They're not trying to ruin our lives. They're just stuck in a broken machine like the rest of us. So treat them with professionalism. Show them you're organized. Be clear, be firm, but also don't disappear after you submit. You have to follow up. Nudge them nicely. Just stay on the radar. Now, Tip number 5, use that permit wait time productively. This one is highly underrated. You know you're waiting, so don't just twiddle your thumbs. Here's what you do while permits are in limbo. Finalize your design selections with your client. Lock in your trade availability, and if you can, pricing. Though we've been finding lately that it's very difficult to lock in pricing too far in advance with the tariff changes and everything else that have been happening and prices going up and prices going down. Pricing is a tough one, but get on the trade partner's radar so that they know something's coming their way. Get ahead of custom orders that have long lead times, like cabinetry or a custom bathtub or custom tile or something like that. Take that time to build your construction schedule, and we'll talk lots more about this in this podcast, but my gosh, is it important to have a schedule. Now, the other thing that you can do is prep the site logistics. Think about how you're gonna coordinate and make things happen on site, and talk to the neighbors. Having a neighbor that is unhappy for you to be there is a real nightmare. So do your best, and sometimes it's not always possible, but do your best to get the neighbor or neighbors on your side, because you never know when you might need to borrow their hose bib, or in a pinch might need to use their outdoor plug so that you can have power, because for whatever reason your site's out of power. So use that time, don't lose it. All right, this has been an interesting foray into my first recording of a podcast, so let's start to wrap things up. You can't eliminate the red tape, but you can make it work for you instead of against you. The best builders don't just build well, they navigate the system well. And if you've got a solid team and a sharp process, you'll stay 2 steps ahead of the chaos every time. All right, that's it for episode 1. Permits, they're slow. They are painful. They're filled with layers that most people don't see until it's too late. But here's the deal, you don't have to get steamrolled by the process. If you understand the game, if you know the rules, if you treat it like part of the project, not just a prelude, you'll come out ahead. If you've been in this game long enough, you know the permit doesn't make the project, but a bad permitting experience can definitely break it. So next week, that's where we're going. Episode 2 is all about tearing down the walls between industry and institutions. We're gonna talk about the tension between builders and city staff, why it exists, how we got here, and what we need to do to fix it. Because guess what? This isn't a war. It's supposed to be a partnership. And right now, that relationship is broken. So if you're a homeowner, builder, inspector, designer, or just someone stuck in the system, watching it grind good projects into delays and red tape, you won't want to miss it. I've got stories and lots of them. So let's stop pretending we're on opposite teams and let's build together. If you like today's episode, subscribe, leave a review or comment, share it with your crew, especially if they've got a permit horror story to tell. I'd love to hear it. Do you have a question or a story or a rant of your own? Shoot me a message. Maybe I'll feature it in future episodes or put it together in a best of them episode sometime down the road. Just depends on how spicy you're feeling. Until next time, keep building smart, not screwed.